They carved a word into the wood, CROATOAN, but there was no one left to read it. When Governor John White returned in August 1590, he found empty houses, abandoned trunks, and a haunting silence. No bodies, no letters of goodbye. Just the single cryptic word etched into a palisade. Over 100 settlers, men, women, and children, vanished without a trace, leaving behind no clues but that single mysterious carving. The fort was neatly dismantled, possessions carefully removed. But there was no sign of struggle, no graves, nothing. Were they fleeing danger, quietly slipping away into the wilderness, or did something darker claim them? The story begins in 1587. John White, an ambitious artist turned governor, leads a hopeful band of English settlers to Roanoke Island off the North Carolina coast. Unlike previous expeditions of soldiers and adventurers, this was a community of families. Eleanor Dare, White's daughter, would soon give birth to Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the New World. Their settlement represented England's dream of expanding its empire, a promise of land, wealth, and new beginnings. But just weeks after arrival, harsh reality set in. The land was unforgiving, supplies dwindled quickly, and tensions simmered with nearby tribes. Local tribes, initially curious and somewhat welcoming, grew increasingly wary as settlers encroached upon traditional hunting grounds. Communication barriers heightened misunderstandings, and small disputes quickly escalated into hostility. In desperation, White returned to England, promising supplies and a swift return. Yet war with Spain delayed him 3 long years. When he finally stepped back onto Roanoke's shores, no cheering settlers greeted him. Only eerie silence and the mystery that has haunted history ever since. White found that word, CROATOAN, etched neatly, signaling a prearranged message. If the settlers moved peacefully, they'd leave a clue where they'd gone. White believed it meant the settlers relocated to nearby CROATOAN Island, home of friendly Native Americans. He planned to sail south and confirm it, but storms ravaged his ship and forced him to retreat. He sailed back to England, never knowing the fate of his family or the colonists he left behind. Early theories surfaced quickly. Jamestown settlers later claimed sightings of indigenous tribes with distinctly English traits, speaking words reminiscent of the colonists' tongue. Reports emerged of books, clothing, and trinkets in native villages, possible signs the settlers survived, assimilated into local tribes. Yet other accounts hinted at tragedy, rival tribes attacking the settlers, or starvation forcing them into desperate acts. Whispers of cannibalism surfaced among later settlers, suggesting grim desperation in the wilderness. For centuries, Roanoke remained a mystery, spawning countless theories but yielding no concrete answers. That changed dramatically when historians took another look at John White's own map, La Virginia Pars. Ultraviolet imaging revealed something astonishing. A hidden 4-pointed star marking a secret fort location inland near modern-day Bertie County. This previously unnoticed clue led archaeologists to what became known as Site X, where excavation uncovered Elizabethan pottery shards, tools, and weapon parts unmistakably from the late 16th century. Suddenly, the lost colony wasn't entirely lost. Evidence suggested they moved inland, possibly splitting into smaller groups to better survive. Meanwhile, excavations on CROATOAN, modern Hatteras Island, unearthed further evidence. High walls indicative of fortifications, pottery with European origin, and an extraordinary discovery: hammer-scale, tiny iron flakes created during metal forging deep within Native American village sites. Local tribes didn't produce iron goods. These artifacts could only have come from English settlers. This groundbreaking find suggested the colonists not only lived among indigenous peoples, but actively integrated into their communities, trading, intermarrying, and crafting tools together. Researchers found more: glass beads, European-style jewelry, slate writing tablets, all signs that pointed to long-term coexistence rather than violent end. Yet doubts lingered. Skeptics argued that trade with later European ships might explain the iron, or that the evidence wasn't conclusive enough to rewrite history. Early theories resurfaced: massacres by mainland tribes, secret voyages north to Chesapeake Bay, or even conspiracies involving sabotage from political enemies back in England, orchestrated to embarrass Sir Walter Raleigh. Sensational accounts emerged, too: tales of hidden communities, ghostly sightings of fair-skinned natives, and even engraved stones allegedly left by Eleanor Dare herself. Most were eventually debunked, but the whispers of uncertainty persisted. Still, recent findings continued building momentum behind assimilation theories. Historians and archaeologists today lean towards the scenario that settlers survived by merging with local tribes, particularly the CROATOANs, rather than being wiped out by violence or starvation. These clues have reframed the Roanoke narrative from tragic disappearance to cultural fusion. In recent years, DNA research further bolstered these claims, tracing genealogical links between modern indigenous communities and European lineage dating back to the late 1500s. For many, the lost colony wasn't lost. It simply changed form, adapting and surviving within indigenous cultures, leaving genetic markers quietly echoing through generations. Yet even now, the lost colony remains partially veiled in mystery. Archaeologists, historians, and researchers debate fiercely. Will new digs uncover undeniable evidence? Could documents yet undiscovered in English archives hold answers? Or might further DNA tests conclusively prove survival through assimilation? Each discovery rewrites pieces of the narrative, challenging us to reconsider history's blank spaces. And yet the story always circles back to that single word: CROATOAN. For generations it was read as a symbol of disappearance, but perhaps it was always intended as a sign of hope, pointing towards survival, community, and the resilience of people determined to endure. Today, the lost colony of Roanoke symbolizes more than a historical puzzle. It's a story about human perseverance, adaptability, and the strength found in unity. The settlers may never have returned to their original homes, but their legacy survived through integration, subtly woven into the fabric of America's complex cultural heritage. As we stand today, looking back at the island where they once carved a single cryptic clue, we're reminded of how easily history shifts shape, how mysteries that once seemed tragic can become tales of endurance and resilience. The colony at Roanoke didn't simply vanish. Their story lives on, whispered through the sands of Hatteras, told quietly in family lineages, and etched into the land that they once dreamed of calling home. Each new artifact uncovered, each theory explored, each generation that questions the past moves us closer to understanding the ultimate fate of these early settlers, transforming a historical puzzle into an enduring story of human strength and survival.